Hey everybody, I wanted to show off some updates that are coming in 9.4.0 around making tasks more resilient. So we've had a number of reports over the years since version 9 launched with a new automation functionality called tasks that sometimes if a task should fail for any reason, there was kind of limited ways to recover from that, or if not recover, even just try to figure out what's going on. Furthermore, and this is probably even more important, if one particular thing were to fail in a task, it would sort of kill the whole batch of things if there was an entire batch of tasks to do, and then it would just be kind of stuck there. So over the years, we've added functionality to tasks to make them a little bit better in this regard. Like there is the ability to clear all these stuck processes from your task activity page. And there's also this failed messages dashboard page, which is meant to catch all of the spots in Concrete where if a task or asynchronous command should fail, it should show up here and let you retry it or delete it or see something about it. But even with that, there were some ways that tasks could circumvent that, or it didn't catch them in all cases. So with 9.4.0, we're trying to improve that a little bit make things more resilient and less likely to, if things should fail. We're planning on things to fail because we can't know how people write code and we can't necessarily catch all cases, but we're trying to build a system that is more resilient in case of failure and should make things much easier to recover from. So this right here is the task pages prior to including the new code that is going up to be merged in 9.4.0. And let me show you an example of what I'm talking about here. So here is the command line interface. And let's say I try to rescan files, which goes through all the files in the file system and rebuilds thumbnails, rescans metadata like width and height, stuff like that. I have gone into my file manager and removed one of the files from the actual disk. So it will attempt to rescan files, and when it gets to that file, it can't actually find the source file because I have removed it, which might happen in production for any number of reasons. And what will happen is an exception because Concrete doesn't like when it can't find a file that it's trying to get information from. So this is, again, before the updates that I'm talking about here. So here we get to file ID number 17, and it says, I can't find this file here. Well, okay, that's too bad. It would be awfully nice if this didn't just halt all execution. Same with the generate thumbnails command, which you might run periodically if you've got your thumbnails set to generate asynchronously. We've got this going here. Again, it dies when it can't get to this particular file in the file system. And so then what you're left with is kind of this weird, irritating spot here where you've got this active processes thing that is trying to run. It's got these things, they never advance, which I'm sure you may have seen from time to time. If you go into your automation and tasks activity page, you'll see them here. You can clear them now, which is awfully nice. But if you go into failed messages, there's no failed messages here, which is kind of weird. You would think that there might be failed messages there showing what happened, but there's not. Perhaps more crucially, if you go into the logs, you actually don't see any logs about this. Even though this is an exception, you would think that you would see a log for that, and you don't. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to improve this situation in a bit. So let me check out task resiliency improvements branch, and I will go back into my activity, and I'll clear my processes, and let's try this again. So instead, now if I rescan my files after 15, you can see it goes here. We still get notice on the command line of an error. It's still formatted, it shows you something, so you can know something's going wrong. We don't want to just hide this stuff. And since this is the command line, it seems pretty reasonable to actually print it out to you. But we continue on even though we did find something, we did have to skip over something. And so now when I'm going into my activity, you can see this is all running at the same time. Things are going good. And if I continue on, if I go into my failed messages, you can now see that that is actually logged as a valid failed message. If I go into activity here, you can see that this is actually logged in the task logging as well, which again, you have to turn on from your automation settings as well, but it will be logged there as well. And it is also logged in the logs as well. So here we have messenger worker, message failed. We could not find the thing here as well. So that is already a big improvement. And let's say we do something like generate thumbnails. We'll try that again. That's going to continue working. It still shows the errors that we get there, but it doesn't block completion. It logs them as you would hope, but it does not block completion there either. One thing that is kind of interesting is if you run a task from the dashboard, you will also get this stuff logged as well, as you would expect. So let's try to rescan from the dashboard as well. I've got Mercure set up so that you can see this happening in real time here. And if we watch closely, we can even see that there is a little blip of a log that shows up there as well, because all these systems are integrated together. Again, it all gets thrown into the failed messages as well, which is handy. And one last little thing. Again, and so one thing that is important to note here is that this is at the task level. So any kind of exceptions that are thrown here will get funneled into this new system, and the existing batch will continue. So again, these things failed, but we did not end up with those stuck processes like we got before, which is awfully nice. Again, we can't predict how things will fail. So if you have your system set up and you're trying to rescan I saw someone talking about they had 9,000 large images and they were trying to rescan something and they ran out of memory. It's like, well, yeah, well, welcome to the club. That probably happened to me too. So if you don't have enough memory to process all the images you're trying to do in a row, we will make a note of it. It should not any longer block everything from continuing or halt irrevocably, unless there's some kind of catastrophic problem to the system, which is awfully nice. And then finally, if for some reason you actually find yourself in a system where it was completely impossible to continue through a task. For example, now if you rescan files, we will honor the verbosity settings in Symfony in the console. So if I do this here, this will actually halt execution and show a full stack trace when it fails, like before. This is not the default behavior, but it could be kind of useful if you're really wanting to find out where this is failing, because this will tell you that it's failing in handling the rescan file task command. However, since it halted the entire thing, this does leave me with this stuck processes. But now we have a button here that says, if you click this Manage Processes button, you'll be able to view historical processes, process logs if enabled, and remove stuck processes. So if I click this button, it'll take me over here. I can clear the processes, and I can be on my merry way. So again, nothing huge here. There's still some room for improvement with perhaps showing the number of successful and failed tasks, and perhaps even showing when a batch was last updated so that we can potentially identify which processes are likely to be stuck. But again, that's not as important as fixing these sort of bigger issues. So hopefully this will improve things for people who are working with tasks, and it is coming in 9.4.0.